Hi friends, welcome to this new video on data sufficiency. Often in data science interviews, you would find interviews asking the candidates a question where you may need to identify if a certain business case study has enough data for you to solve or not. So, before starting out with any data science project, one of the first steps is to define the problem in a clear and unambiguous manner. What data you would need to solve a particular problem is the next big question. But as is reality, it might not be feasible to get all the data that you need. You may need to make up assumptions, approximations, use derived variables, and consider proxies which come with measurement errors. For example, you want to conclude how satisfied a customer is based on a sample survey that you tend to do. Ask your consumers or customers questions like, how many times have you bought a specific product from the store? What have you really liked? And what have you not liked about a particular product? Or how was your shopping experience? There could be many such questions. However, there would still be factors which would remain unaccounted for, and even the ones which are qualitative in nature needs to be numerically coded in some way. So the point here is that understanding if you have all the data at hand or in some way could reliably make them up is one of the most critical starting point in solving an analytical project. So once you're projected or presented with a case study that you have to solve, this is the very first step to understand if you have sufficient data and if you need to find certain data of this particular problem. And that makes data sufficiency a very important tool that every analyst or a data science practitioner should have in their toolkit. So in this video, we will go over some of the very basic approaches that would help you navigate through a case study question in a more conscious way so that you have a good sense of the data that you require to solve. Data sufficiency knowledge, as you would have understood by this time, is extremely useful in situations where the job is to identify the right set of tools to perform a certain task which involves data. Now, the most important thing to realize is that at this stage you would develop skills to be an observer. You need to have an eye for detail. You do not essentially need to solve the problem, but what an interviewer would expect from you while interviewing is what is your approach. There are, however, certain situations where you might require to perform some basic calculations in order to understand, if the data that you have at your hand is really sufficient or not. So there are broadly two types of data sufficiency questions, and let's see what they are. Now, the first one is where you start off with a particular problem, and let's use the highlighter here. Okay, so here you start off with a problem, and then you look at the particular statement here. Statement one alone. Statement one alone is sufficient to answer, your question. Then you just stop over here. In this question, in this particular case, the question can be answered by just one particular statement. Statement one. But you do not really need any other statement to be able to answer this question. But if you are not able to answer a particular problem based on only one statement, then you look at any other statement. If you are able to solve with the other statement, then you stop. If you are unable to solve even with that, then you again go ahead with a next statement and so on. Right? And if you are unable to solve a certain problem, uh, even after consuming or using all the data points that is provided to you, then you conclude that you really need more data to be able to solve this problem. One type of data sufficiency questions that interviewers might ask you. The second type of data sufficiency question that you might be asked is of this form. You start off with a basic business question or a case study, a problem at hand, and then you try to understand if all the statements provided to you are sufficient or not. You would land up in a case where you are just looking at the first statement, and if you are able to solve the given problem with this particular statement, then you try to understand if there's also another data point or a statement, and you could have solved the same problem. If you were able to solve the same problem using the other statement, then you stop here. And if you were not able to solve the problem with the second statement, but were able to solve the problem only with the first statement, in that case, the question is being answered by one of the statements alone, but not by using another statement alone. So in this case, you have used statement 1 to solve your problem, but you haven't really been able to use statement 2 to solve the same problem individually. Now, if you are unable to solve this particular problem using statement 1 alone, then you will go to the next statement. And if you are able to solve the problem with this particular statement, then you stop immediately here. But if you are unable to solve it with even this particular statement alone, then you try to figure out if you are able to solve the problem using the information from both of these statements, or you could imagine both data points. And if you are able to solve it, then you stop. So you conclude that you can solve the problem using both the statements and not any one of the statements individually. If you are unable to solve the problem even using both of these, now this is a structure that we are talking about here. We hypothetically are talking about two data points or two statements. You could imagine this to be n number of statements or n number of data points. And if you are unable to solve a particular given problem or a case study with n number of points, then you would say that you need additional data. Now let us look at some mathematical examples and some other examples of questions that generally is asked in data sufficiency. Let us first look at a mathematical example where suppose you have been provided with the average marks across all subjects in a class of 5 students. So let me take the pen here for a moment. So average marks for all the subjects in a class of 5 students is 600. So let us write down what are the information that we have. So we have n equal to 5 students in this case, and the average marks, which let us denote x bar as the average marks of all the students, be 600. Okay, out of 1,000 marks exam conducted, and the marks of 3 students, let us say the marks of 3 students are the following: x1 equal to 300, x2 equal to 250, and x3 equal to 500. Okay, so this adds up to 500 plus 300 is 800, and 250, which is 1050. So this is the sum of the marks of the 3 individuals, which is denoted by the notation sigma I equal to 1 to 3 of xi. The summation of these marks is 1050. So the question here is, can we find out the marks of the other 2 students in the class? So remember there are a total of 5 students, and you have been given the marks of 3 of the students. So to solve this problem, we have to first understand if we have all the required data to be able to solve this problem. So we have these pieces of information provided to us. The only thing that we know from this data is the value of x bar, or the mean, the average. And by definition, we know average is nothing but the sum of the marks where n equal to 5 of the 5 students divided by the total number of students, which in this case is 1050 plus, let's say, the marks of n by student 4 is x4, and that of student 5 is x5, and total is 5. So what we get from this particular equation is 600 equal to 1550 plus x4 plus x5. So we take this 5 on the left hand side and multiply it here. So we get what we get 2000 people, or in next step now we subtract 1000 people from here. We get 1550 equal to x4 plus x5. So the question here asked is, can we find out the marks of the other 2 students in the class? So the marks that the other two students have got in the class is a total of 1 550. So we are able to get this answer from this particular equation. However, if we were asked to individually find out the marks, that wouldn't have been possible because we just are looking at one particular equation and we are having two answers, and we wouldn't be able to solve that. Now, similarly, if we look at the second problem, in this case, the question asked here is what is the profit made by brand ABC in the year 2019? So you are looking at profit. What is the profit is a question. And what is the information that has been provided? The revenue of the brand ABC revenue in 2019 was $500 million. Okay. And the cost in 2019 was $350 million. So what say guys? Will we be able to solve this problem based on the data that we have? Yes, of course, because profit by definition we know is nothing but revenue minus cost, and that gives us 500 minus 350, which is $150 million, and that is the profit. So we are able to calculate the profit in the brand ABC based on the information that we have in this particular. Similarly, if we have this question where what is the average weight of a batch of 30 students is asked. So let the average weight be represented as W bar. This is the question. And what are the information pointers that we have in this problem? We have n equal to 30, and in the first case it's mentioned the batch has 16 boys and 14 girls. Okay, so boys equal to 16 and girls equal to 14, and we have to find out what is the average weight of a batch of 30 students. So let us think for a moment. Can we use the data provided in pointer number 1 to solve this problem? Now, by definition, we know average weight is nothing but the sum of weights. Here n equal to 30, and let the individual weights be W5 divided by n equal to 30. Okay, now it seems that we need the sum of weights, which we do not have. So using pointer number 1, are we able to solve this problem? We are not. Now let us look at the second case. Here it is mentioned the total weight of the bat is 1800 kg. So that means the second pointer tells us that summation of Wi is 1800. And now we also know n equal to 30. Oh, that's great. So now we can solve the value of W bar, or the average weight of a batch of 30 students. Let me 1800 by 30. That gives us 60. So if we are looking at pointer number 2, we are able to solve this particular problem. But if we are looking at pointer number 1, we are unable to solve this problem. Let us look at one other example. Here we have two different equations, and we have to find out what is the value of x plus 2y. What do you think? Do you think that we could solve this particular problem using these two equations? I will not solve this problem. I would wait for your answer on the comment section below. Let me know if you are able to solve this particular data sufficiency problem or not. Give your reasons why you are able to solve it, and if not, why not. And one interesting thing here is that you check out our sections on description, statistics, and correlation, and you may need to pay attention to some of the formulas and the logic of their computations in order to be able to grasp why some information is really critical in calculating a metric. So a lot of questions generally would come up or potentially could be asked in any of the data science interviews on these particular topics on description, statistics, and correlation. So it's a good idea for you to check out those on our particular channel. Now, moving from the topic of mathematical examples, we can also look at logical examples, and these are pretty much relevant in the context of data sufficiency or solving case studies. Often, in many of the interviews or even in your practice as a data consultant, you might need to solve a case study, and the most important quality to solve that is that you have to solve challenges. So especially in solving challenges, you have to have a very good pair of ears. You have to have a good art of listening and an art of communicating. And of listening is extremely important for understanding the problem. Often you will find clients over type, over including, and it's very important to listen to the problem statements carefully, right? So logical data sufficiency questions helps you read between the lines and carefully understand if there's a loophole in a statement, or you may need any extra information in order to process and solve a problem at hand. You may check out this video on uh, why trust insights from data science models that we have uploaded, where you will find much more on the different types of models. So here we are just focusing on verbal models, and in this particular example, the question here is Raj is the tallest boy in the class. Is he the tallest student in the class? Now, to answer this particular question, we have two data pointers provided, one at a time. The first one tells us that Rani is the tallest girl in the class. Okay. Does this statement really help us answer the first question? Is Raj the tallest student in the class? What do you think? I don't think so. So this doesn't really help. Okay, let us now look at the second statement. Rani is shorter than Raj. Okay, now we have a point. So here the question says Raj is the tallest boy in the class. And here the keyword is boy, and here we also have the tallest. And here we also know that Rani is the tallest girl, but here it's mentioned Rani is shorter than Raj. Okay, so if we look at two statements together now, then of course it stands out that Raj is indeed the tallest student in the class. So in this particular case, we are not able to answer the question just based on one information, but we need both of these data points to be able to answer this particular question. So that's kind of what we had. That's all we had to discuss for today, and I really hope that you have learned something new. If you are looking for any kind of a private mentorship, a career counseling, practice mock interviews, or being well prepared in case any of the data science interviews that is upcoming, or if you're looking for guidance or training